Hello.
Hey,
Episode 2.
yes, we're back.
First week was a ton of fun.
It was.
I think we both were just like stoked
Yeah,
after we filmed. And we were like, I can't wait to get to the next one.
yeah, I know. We could have just stopped and then started. We could have just recorded the second episode right after we finished
Totally.
recording the first
Yep.
episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is what you're hearing here is us talking every day with our wives, kind of looking at each other, going, "How are we going to break up this conversation?"
Yeah, this is definitely like getting some conversation off of our chest before we hang out as a family.
So I think we should probably compare notes, and I bet we'll discover that it really was our wives who came up with this idea.
Yeah.
Like, we got to find a way to get you together to just get it all off your chest, so that when we go out as a family,
They incepted it.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, that's too funny. All right, well, we got a little bit of a... We're going to try to start each episode with a little bit of consistency.
Yes.
So first, as we did last week, we're going to start with show and tell. So sorry to you audio listeners from last week. That was only one audio listener. So
Yeah. So
whoever that was, could have been my dad. I don't know.
whoever it was, thank you for listening, and we'll do our best to describe what we're showing.
All right, so I'll go first. And I'm really excited about this one. What I brought for show and tell today is Strange Academy, issue number 6. And this is the David Nakayama version. And this is signed by Elizabeth Olsen. And it's a CGC 9.8, white pages. Let's see. Get a good look at it right there. Show the main camera. I'll show Bob's camera too.
Show me.
Oh, yeah,
I want
there
to
you
see
go,
it.
Bob. There
Yeah,
you go.
that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, so this is the book that was sitting behind me last week that when I was editing the podcast, there was some, you could like see it here and there, and you could see that it's a yellow label, but like you couldn't see what it was. So I figured why not do a quick show and tell and give a little context to what's behind me.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is signed by Elizabeth Olsen. She did a signing with CGC last year. It cost some money, but I was like, she's my wife's favorite MCU character, and I think she's had one of the better arcs out of all the MCU
Oh yeah,
characters.
major arc, an
Yeah.
actual serious legit arc.
Yeah, so I love that. I loved WandaVision.
Yeah.
And then I didn't hate Multiverse of Madness as much as everybody else did. So yeah, I think this is a book that I will never get rid of.
No, yeah, and there's a bit of a story behind it, right? Didn't you? You had to wait a long time to get it.
Yeah, it was like, I want to say I sent this in May, and then I think I got it back like holiday season.
That's a long time.
So yeah, and even the kind of scarier part is we were leaving the country maybe when we had to send it out. So basically, we had people house sitting for us, and I pressed it. I didn't need to clean it, but I pressed it, put it in a box, had it in a package, had the label, and the dude that was house sitting, I was like, "Hey, get this to USPS by this date, please."
Oof.
So he did. He was a good friend.
Okay.
And he did. But yeah, so there was a little bit of anxiety. So give you guys one last look.
Yeah.
That's my show and tell. Elizabeth Olsen signed Strange Academy.
Would it have meant less to you, much less to you, if it came back a 9.6 versus 9.8? I mean, obviously you want the 9.8, but it's the book with the signature, right?
You know, I had a few Scarlet Witch covers that I was looking through,
Yeah.
and I didn't think any of them were going to be a 9.8. Even this one, I thought 9.6. I think that was a little bit of me, like, kind of setting myself up for it not to be a 9.8. That way I don't have high hopes. But I went with that one because I like David Nakayama, and I thought that genuinely had the best chance. So
I have a theory on that. I have a theory that if you send a book to CGC to be graded and signed, that they maybe are a little bit more merciful on the grade, because let's say they find, for example, like a fingerprint or an indent.
Yeah.
There may be a part of them that's thinking, well, maybe we did that. I mean, I don't know if it's just me or not, but anyway, that's a beautiful book. That's a beautiful book. Okay, my show and tell today is a book that well, I'll just show it to you, then I'll explain it. It is Green Lantern issue number 76. show it to all the cameras here. Hopefully there's not too much of a glare. I don't know. If I stick it in front of you, then I get it in front of in front of, there it is. Right? Okay. And this book here is thought of by many to be the book that started the Bronze Age. It's kind of in the conversation with Amazing Spider-Man 121, Death of Gwen Stacy, and oddly Conan 1. They both came out early 70s, 1970. Conan 1, 1970. I think Death of Gwen is 72. I'm not sure, but the idea being the 70s, the Bronze Age represents kind of a departure from kind of the good guy versus bad guy. Good guy always wins. Kind of morality tales that the Silver Age represents, and the Golden Age too, where comic books became much more sophisticated and started having darker stories. I don't know how Conan fits into that, but Gwen Stacy dying, that's unheard of in the 60s. You wouldn't see that, right?
Exactly.
And this particular run is the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil run, where they had the Green Lantern team up with the Green Arrow and go across the country with one of the dudes who impugns the Green Lanterns with their power, one of those guardians, to find out what's really evil and what isn't evil. That's kind of the point. The thing says, in brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. And then the Green Arrow, he's shooting it, saying never again. And the point of that is, the Green Arrow or the Green Lantern discovers or is shown, hey, what you think is good isn't good, and there's evil hiding there. And so this embarks this duo on a run all the way through issue 89, where they're tackling social issues. I mean, all the different social issues, racism, obviously, social justice issues, the environment. This is when John Stewart's introduced as the first black, almost said Black Panther, the Black Green Lantern in 85.
Yeah.
And so it's historic for that reason. It represents comic books taking on social issues, and so I like that a lot.
85 or 75 for John Stewart.
John Stewart's
you mean
85.
issue 85?
Yeah, issue 85.
I was like, that sounds late.
Pretty late in the game, right? And so there's that going for it. And I mentioned last time, I love comic books that have a history connection to pop culture. It's also has an amazing cover. It's just a gorgeous cover. This is one of those covers that it's just iconic. You see it, you spot it, you recognize it, and it catches your eye. That emerald green, gorgeous. I don't need to say anything about Neil Adams, that hasn't already been said. This is just one of his best covers.
For sure.
You can argue some of the Batmans and detectives and all that, but this is my favorite Neil Adams cover.
Yeah, that's a great one.
This is a book that I sold and then have recently reacquired. I bought it in the 90s at a comic shop in Santa Barbara for $75 that I barely had, and then I sold it in the 2000s for I think $250 or something like that, and I bought it back at a claim sale recently for less than the grade would indicate. It's an 8.0. I did not pay what an 8.0 would cost, and the reason for that is because I had you. Our audience might not know this, but Joshua presses comic books. He mentioned it. He pressed his Strange Academy. Well, you pressed this for me, and there's I looked at it, and there's very little as far as color breaks go. Pretty much everything in it
clean.
Could be pressed out. There's a tiny little mark here at the bottom, but you pressed it up to an 8.0. I think it was probably going to be a 7 or 7.5, and you just cleaned it up. And
I think that's what I projected, right? I think I said 7.5.
7.5. It came back in 8.0, which there's a big gap between 8.0 and 8.5. 8.5 is almost really hard to find flaws. 8.0, a little more liberal. I love this book.
Great book.
It's an interesting story. Denny O'Neil is the writer, and Denny O'Neil was young at the time and one of DC's up and coming writers. And interesting story. He was also the writer behind the change in Wonder Woman in issue 178 when they ditched Wonder Woman and all of her powers and made her not on Amazon anymore. She had no more power. She had no memory of being an Amazon. She meets this guy named I Ching, and she learns martial arts, and she's like a normal. It was a feminist attempt to like female feminine power and make her more modern. They were trying to modernize her, away from Wonder Woman's history.
Right.
And it was all well intentioned, but the truth is it kind of backfired, and people didn't like that the first thing they do is that they depower one of comicdom's most powerful females. So finally, toward the end, it got a little dicey. You guys might recall, those later issues in the 200s with all those bondage covers that all of a sudden like, took a really kind of they're dark bondage covers.
Yeah, they are.
And like, what's going on with Wonder Woman, And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, in issue 204, they just ditched all that. They had I Ching gets shot and killed, and Wonder Woman, Diana Prince, retains her powers and her memory, and Nubia, first appearance. But there's a little letter from the editor in issue 204 where it stopped short of being an apology, but they basically say, we're taking Wonder Woman back to the way she was. But they were DC. I think it was Carmen Infantino. I'm pretty sure wrote it, but they made mention of Denny O'Neil, and they said, we appreciate what Denny did with the title, and they were applauding his work. And by then he was already doing this. It was 1972 when that issue came out. So, and Denny later admitted that it was a mistake what they did with Diana Prince in those issues. But when you've created something as iconic as this, you get to admit a mistake once in a while, right? But anyway, I'm really stoked to get this back in my collection, and I've said never before, but I'm never going to sell it. I can't see selling it because I regretted it last time, and I don't want to repeat that mistake.
Yeah,
it's a great book to have in the collection.
There's a piece of information that you were going to share.
Oh, right, yes, that's right. This book economically is interesting too. If you go on a site like Go Collect, for example, and you take a look at the trend line from say 2010 until now, for almost any Bronze Age key, and even Silver Age, but certainly the Bronze Age stuff, you're going to see that 2020, 2021 spike, and then the dip.
Yeah.
This book was immune to the spike and the dip. It just stayed on almost I won't say flat, but the increase was level. It just kind of went like this the whole way. And I think that has to do with the fact that it's not a first appearance, and yet it's highly sought after. It's not a lot of them on the census. It's iconic. It has all those things going for it that I talked about.
What does the CGC note say?
Without my glasses, you better read it for me. What it says.
Yeah, it just says Green Lantern, Green Arrow series begin.
Yeah, so it's one of those ones that is more. It's not going to go up or down based on what the MCU news is. It is
DCU.
Did I say MCU? Yeah, DCU. Excuse me. Yeah, whatever the movies. It's certainly not going to go up whatever MCU says, but it's not whatever movies come and go. That's not going to make this book go up or down. It's in value. It's all the other things I mentioned. So it's kind of, if you want to compare it to stocks, it's like buying IBM or Apple or something like that. Like it's not necessarily going to spike and dip like some stocks do, some comic books do. It's gonna retain its value. It's not gonna go up 50% in 6 months, but it's also not gonna go down 50% in 6 months.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for an investment book, and this is definitely an investment book, they're on a lot of copies in high grade, comparably. It's a good book to get.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was really cool. So this is actually a perfect segue. And I'm glad that you brought this book into some news that I have to share.
Yeah, okay.
So, James Gunn's Superman is in the middle of filming. And we've had some announcements of who's playing who. And it was announced a while ago that Nathan Fillion was going to play Guy Gardner. And just this morning, we got some Nathan Fillion and Guy Gardner photo leaks. So I'm going to show you. That's Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner.
That's cool. Wow. It looks really good.
Yeah.
It's just like him. Kind of, he looks just as
that
irritating as he does. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really good. Yeah.
And then we got this photo.
Ooh, that looks good. That looks really good. I didn't think I would be ready for another superhero movie, but this has got me excited.
So I'm not. Here's the thing about and that's Hawk Girl. By the way, I don't
Nice.
That's Isabel Merced. She's actually going to be in The Last of Us.
Oh yeah,
season two.
Okay.
And then I think she was in Madam Web, if you've seen that.
Oh, that one.
So the only thing about James Gunn movies, and I respect him for this because honestly, I can't say I'd do any different.
Yeah.
But he just casts his friends and everything. And so it's just a bit weird seeing Nathan Fillion and all the James Gunn in the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy, and now a decently significant role.
Oh yeah.
In this Superman movie. But yeah, so that's a little bit of DCU news. Not much to come. I mean, I guess we'll see what happens if the first appearance of Guy Gardner book picks up.
Yeah.
But we also meant to go over this last week, so I'll show you some of these. These are some leaks from the set. They're filming in Cleveland, which is super random, but I mean Midwest, so
Yeah.
because that's Smallville and
Sure.
why am I blanking on where the city Superman's in?
Metropolis.
Metropolis, yeah. So here is Lex Luthor. First look at Lex Luthor, and if you slide one,
Ooh,
there will be another
wow,
Lex Luthor picture.
He looks diabolical. I like that they're presenting him as a physical presence. You know, not just a bald head, but he looks tough.
Yeah. So that's actually, I am totally blanking on his name right now. I don't know why I can't think of it.
Sorry, we'll put it on the screen.
Yeah, he. It came down to him and Robert Pattinson to play Batman, and Robert Pattinson ended up beating him out for it. Mm-hmm. And he also played the Beast in the newer X-Men movies.
Okay.
So he's ready for his time to shine.
That's a pretty good consolation. So sorry, you can't be Bruce Wayne, but you can be Lex Luthor.
Yeah. So pretty cool. And then here's just a nice full shot of Superman. What do you think of his suit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It looks it looks it looks like the Henry Cavill one with color, you know, to me, basically, which is nice. You know, I mean, it doesn't look like pajamas, which is the main thing with the Superman costume. I think it looks slick. It looks cool.
Nice. I kind of like the pajama look, but I just think this has too many lines. And I'll put the pictures up for everyone
it
to
does
see,
have a lot of texture on almost like a tire tread.
Yeah. So it would just I think if you could do like the pajama look, but like a little bit more modern.
I dressed as Superman for Halloween in college.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
in pajamas and a onesie.
It was pretty close because the bottoms were long johns, that were dyed blue, light blue, and and then what amounts to a red, you know, Speedo type of
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say more than that. and the t-shirt, you know, the Superman t-shirt. But what's funny is, and I guess that's why I got it for a good deal. And I have no idea why I didn't know it at the time. I'm sure I did, but I don't know. I guess I didn't care. The S was upside down on the t-shirt.
Oh.
I don't understand why. And then the cape. But I also dressed up as Clark Kent. I went to a party and I was Clark Kent for the first half of the party. And then I disappeared. And I came back as a Superman.
Smooth.
Yeah, and I stole that from my dad. It was my dad's costume, and he wore it. And said then when he retired from that, I took it with me to college, and I wore it for a couple of years. It was Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, so Halloween was a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. I love
so even back then, you know,
yeah.
like I said last time, nobody really knew I collected comics, but I dropped little
some
Easter
hints.
eggs here and there.
Yeah.
If anybody was paying attention.
So the S on his suit is actually from the Alex Ross Kingdom Come.
Yeah, that's right. So
pretty cool.
So we don't know for sure that's going to be what the story is going to be, but you suspect it is because you recently picked up a copy of the first issue of that run, right?
No, that's a different run. That was the Grant Morrison All-Star Superman.
Oh, okay.
The Kingdom Come is where the cover where he has like all of the superheroes, like all the DC superheroes.
Okay.
I can show you after, but yeah. So he stole the S from that. It looks pretty cool. Here's a first look at Clark Kent. So I will say, well, give me your thoughts on that because we're going for your reaction here.
Yeah, he looks. He's got the requisite dorkiness, and yet with the potential to be handsome just underneath the surface. So he's channeling Christopher Reeves, I think, really well here.
Exactly. So I love Henry Cavill Superman. I think it was a palate cleanser for, we got we had Christopher Reeves, we had the Smallville show, we had Superman in Lois and Clark.
Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had that other guy with that very forgettable Superman movie that came out in the mid 2000s, but just a very like happy Superman. So Henry Cavill was a palate cleanser for this safe Superman that has just been depicted for the last 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
And I think in hindsight, people forget that. I think it's like, oh, he was too edgy, but it's like, it was rinse and repeat until then. So
yeah, it was.
It was a nice refresher, and we got it. And Henry Cavill is an incredible Superman, and I'm excited for what David Corn Sweat will do. But I would have liked to have seen more of Henry Cavill, and even if there would have been a pivot for Henry Cavill to like, okay, he had his dark, edgy kind of season, but now we're gonna pivot him to the wholesome Superman that he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're spot on, and that's what a lot of people have said, that this is going back to the Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
But my one critique of the Henry Cavill Superman is he was way too hot as Clark Kent, way too good looking.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the slicked hair, the glasses. You could like his, correct posture.
No, you're not fooling anybody.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it was like, okay, how are you guys not able to tell?
Right.
But this, like,
yeah,
you look at that compared to that, like,
yeah, there's a big difference.
That is a different person.
I don't know if you've seen on YouTube, there's this. It's almost like a masterclass in acting where they use Christopher Reeves to show how posture makes a huge difference in playing a character, because they've got Christopher Reeves as Clark Kent, and he's fumbling, bumbling, talking to Margot Kidder, who's playing Lois Lane, and he looks just a complete dork.
Yeah.
And then he's decided in the scene that he's going to reveal who he is.
Yeah.
And so as he's talking, he begins to he's not doing it with words. It's all with his body. I think Lois is off camera, and and his posture is changing, and it's a complete transformation without a single word uttered by this character. And he suddenly goes from being sort of this sort of folded, dorky looking thing to Superman.
Yeah.
And he ends up not revealing himself in that scene, but that you didn't have with Henry Cavill, because Henry Cavill was Superman all the time.
Yeah.
He was Superman wearing glasses.
Right, exactly.
Kind of like me when I played Superman and Clark Kent.
Yep, exactly.
I couldn't hide, even everybody knew.
All right, I got 3 more pictures for you, so we'll try to speed through these.
Okay.
So I think this is great. I've seen this actor in a couple things. It's Jimmy Olsen, which, I mean, just look-wise, he's dorky looking, and he is the complete opposite to what David Corn Sweat is.
He looks like Superman's pal. He looks like somebody's pal, not their friend.
Yeah.
Not like they're the guy they roll with, but he's somebody's pal.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we got that one, Jimmy Olsen, and then here's a first.
You're getting me excited for this movie.
Here's our first look at Lois Lane.
Again, it looks like Margot Kidder to me. They are really going for the 77 Superman feel. Look, that's great. Yeah, she looks like Lois Lane.
Yeah,
and she's got that edgy professional journalist look to her also, which I think
does.
Margot Kidder did really well. Had that hardness to her. In case anybody's wondering, that was my Superman. I'm not that old where I was watching the original, the George Reeves Superman.
Yeah.
That was before my time. When the Christopher Reeves Superman came out, I was 10 years old. So imagine, it was the sweet spot for me.
Yeah. Wow.
The VCRs didn't come out yet, because if they did, I would have owned that movie to watch it over and over and over again. It's a begging my parents to take me to see Superman again.
So that was what Superman is for you, like around that age. That's what Spider-Man is for people my generation.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I do. It's a special thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Comic books, heroes. I
All
love
right.
it.
So this is Mr. Terrific. There's 3 pictures here, so
Okay.
just slide to the 3. You've gone too far if you see Guy Gardner again.
Are you sure that's what I'm going to see? I'm a little nervous. Okay. Oh yeah. Ooh. Yeah, he looks cool.
Yeah, he looks great.
That's great. Yeah, he looks. I like that second picture where you really get a look at what his face looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about this character, but I learned that technology or something like that. He's
I don't know. I know very little
he's-
about Mr. Terrific.
It's
It's a blind spot.
He's like immune to like technology, and I don't know what that means. Like, do
Yeah.
photographs not capture him? But it has to do with like that T on his face, and he's
That's right. I do know about that. That's right.
so he's also apparently like the smartest person. Like at any moment could be the smartest person in the room. Similar to me, like
does
when
that
I'm
to
in a
do
room.
with, like something his parents did to him? Is that his origin
don't
story? I feel
know.
like I might be mixing it up, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I haven't really. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was about to say I haven't really been looking forward to too much from DC movies, but that's not true at all because the Pattinson Batman is my absolute favorite Batman. I think it's yours too.
Yep.
I loved it.
Yeah,
And,
great.
I can't wait for the next installment.
Yeah,
so
me
good.
too.
So many iconic scenes in that movie.
I saw a tweet yesterday because they announced like that they're shooting for a fall 2025, I believe,
Okay.
release date. And so I saw somebody say, I hope the Batman Part 2 is 4 hours long.
I'm down.
I will sit through that
I
movie.
have no problem
Yeah,
with it.
Exactly.
You know, I still haven't watched Oppenheimer because like 3.5 hours
Yeah.
of what's got to be depressing in some way. I'm certain of it.
Yeah.
But I'll do it for Batman.
100%. Yeah. So the last piece of news is MCU news.
Yeah.
And this is directly tied into some of your recent purchases.
Okay.
I
let's hear it.
would show you, but I don't have a TV on the wall yet. I'm waiting till Prime Day to get a TV.
When is Prime Day, by the way?
July 17th through 18th or through the 19th. So a couple weeks.
Maybe we'll get together. We'll have it. We'll treat it like a, you know,
like Atcon.
Yeah, like Atcon.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But this Deadpool and Wolverine comes out later this month.
Yeah.
I personally think that the future of the MCU is on the spine of this movie.
Yeah.
If this movie flops, I think the MCU will probably have to just can everything and restart.
Yeah. It's been so hyped, and they've kept such a. They've managed to keep pretty good lid on it.
Yeah. So they released like a mini. It was like a 45-second, probably like a commercial or something. But at the end of it,
Say it.
Sabretooth.
Yes. Okay, there's a couple good things that you could say, and one would be including Dazzler and Taylor Swift, and but Sabretooth is actually even better.
Yeah. So I know you bought that
recently.
What grade was it again?
9.0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Iron Fist 14 for Sabretooth.
it's the OG. Well, have we gotten? We didn't get a Sabretooth in the modern or in the newer X-Men movies, right? It was just the older one. Yeah. So it's that same actor.
Okay.
I think it is. It looks just like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw the picture.
Yeah. And so he kind of like jumps out of like a tank or a car or something. And then Deadpool starts pulling his katanas out of Wolverine because they're setting up a fight between Wolverine and
That's great.
Sabretooth. So he's like, Deadpool says something like, "Oh, hold on, you look like a mess right now." And he like pulls his katana out of his stomach and out of his back. And he goes, "Oh, small knife." And he pulls it out of his shoulder.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
And then it's Sabretooth and Wolverine charging at each other. So I don't think we've seen them fight since like 2000, that first
Right.
X-Men movie. So it's pretty.
Yeah, the only thing that was leaked was the decapitated head of Sabretooth. So
being held.
Maybe that's an indication of where the fight's going.
Yeah,
Probably.
exactly.
But who cares, man? It'll be
Yeah.
a great fight. Like that, Sabretooth is a that's probably a good buy. The Iron Fist 14. I mean, I think so because I just bought it. But you know, as far as Bronze Age keys go, it's a key first appearance. Mutants are mutants, and they're very popular. And it's a beautiful cover. A first appearance that happens to be a good cover goes a lot further than a first appearance that isn't a great cover. Thinking of First Rogue, for example, if that has a better cover, it's probably worth more.
Yeah.
Than Avengers Annual 10 is just. Yeah.
Well, I think that's like. I feel like sometimes that's why they shift these first appearances, like Hulk 181. Like,
totally.
Hulk 180 is his first appearance. He's only on one page. It's a full panel of him, and he says he's a full line. He
delivers a line and gives his name.
So that, by any indication, is a first appearance.
Yeah.
But Hulk 181 is the better cover by far. Like there's no debate. It is the better cover.
It's iconic, and it's Wolverine on the cover and that fight. Another great example of that is first Red Sonja. If you follow Red Sonja or Conan or whatever, you might be tempted to say, well, the first Red Sonja is Conan 24. I mean, even Overstreet says so. I've seen it. I've seen it on CGC says so in some slabs, right? Red Sonja's first appearance is the issue before. It's Conan 23. She appears in about a third of the book and has a full story arc, in the book. Well, not a full arc, but she's talking on about 20 panels in this book. And that's her first appearance. It's not a cameo. It's a first appearance. Issue 24 is that cover with her on it, and it says the Song of Red Sonja.
Yeah. That's
her first cover appearance, but that's got the moniker of first full appearance, and it is not the first full appearance.
Yeah.
So it's odd. Conan 23 and Conan 24 are worth about the same, but it's a first appearance and it's a second appearance. It is not a cameo and a first full appearance. And everybody knows it, because if that were really true, issue 23 would be worth a fraction of issue 24, in the same way that Hulk 180 is worth a fraction of Hulk 181. But nobody really believes that Red Sonja's appearances in Conan 23 are a cameo.
And I think the other big offender is first appearance of Gambit.
That wasn't that basically a delivery error to the comic shops or something like that. Like, it was supposed to be the X-Men title, but the appearance where he shows up as a baby got delivered early, like to the comic shops earlier, but it was supposed to come later.
Oh, I've never heard this story.
I heard that, but I have not confirmed it. So if you guys are watching and put it in the comments. Help us out.
Yeah.
So what's to you? Which is the first appearance of Gambit?
So I believe, is that X-Men Annual? I'm blanking on the name. It's an annual, right? Yeah.
Where he's a baby.
I believe there's more. I haven't read it. I don't know, but actually it's on Key Collector. It's a hot book right now. They say something. I believe he has like lines of delivery, and let me see.
Where he's an adult, where he's on the cover. As an adult, or
that's Keys this week.
Yeah, these are great. These are great debates to have. But the answers to these questions, there's a lot of money tied to it too.
Yeah.
It's not fun when it's debated, because, like, again, Conan 23 and 24, I own both issues. But neither one of them is going to ever really ascend to the value it should have, because no one's really sure which is the first appearance.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Okay, here. X-Men Annual 14. First appearance of Gambit. Debatable first. This issue is often cited as a cameo of Gambit, which implies that the appearance is brief, although he appears in 15 panels throughout the book with at least 10 instances of dialogue.
Okay, that's not a cameo.
No.
So they're hiding behind cameo. That's what they're doing with Conan 23.
Yeah, so that is the first appearance. But I mean, also, I'm so bad with numbers. The Gambit cover that is regarded as his first appearance.
Yeah,
there's no doubt that is the better cover.
Oh yeah, it's the more desirable book. It's just the same as what you're describing.
Which, I mean, in fairness, when it comes to like the market, that's fine if that book is worth more. It should just be like there should be some sort of indication like, yeah, this is the first appearance. It has no cover appeal, so it's like, why would you want this in your collection? Like, whatever. Like, it's got a little bit of a price tag on it, but very affordable. But then his first cover appearance on X-Men, whatever it is, this is just a gorgeous cover. It's his first cover appearance. Like,
it's the one we want.
So it's exactly. And there's nothing nothing wrong with that.
100%.
But I think the weird manipulation of like, this is his first appearance, and then CGC and Overstreet and key collectors like having to come in and be like, okay, no, this isn't his first appearance. Like, because at that point you're just bamboozling your buyers.
Yeah, it's irritating. I mean, in the end, when you're talking about values of a comic book, it's the buyer who decides. It's the person who's going to put the money down sets the market.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I remember when, like, you know, Overstreet Price Guide was the only way. It was the only game in town. You know, that was you waited all year for it.
Yeah.
And then you opened it up and it told you what the values were. But everybody understood that the Overstreet, in the same way that any of these other sites, is only a reflection of what the buyers believe the value to be. So it's not really fair to walk up to a seller and say, well, I know you're trying to sell this really red hot book for $200, but look, I've got the Key Collector app and it says that it's only worth $160. You know, well, that's true for books that aren't hot or going trending downward. That's absolutely true. But for a red hot book, no, it's 160, but I'm selling for 200. You know? And if you don't want to buy it for 200, the next person coming in the store behind you probably will.
Yeah.
So you don't have to buy it if you don't want to. And I know you did a video about this with conventions. When it's going the other way though, when the market is is the prices are declining in the market, that's when you're doing a disservice to your seller or to your buyer if you're not being up to date with your prices. But you know, when a book's hot, the market dictates the price. Not what it says in the price guide. That's just a reflection.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's kind of
switch gears
a little bit. This kind of what we're talking about kind of lends itself. This will be the meat of this video, and let's talk about. And I'm certain that our listeners will want to hear this. So let's talk about our best and worst buys, and if we have any, our best and our worst sells. So I think you're gonna have more of those than me. But you want to start with buys or sells?
Let's go with buys.
All right. I'll start. My first example of bad buys is early on in my collecting. There was 2 signed Neil Adams books, not key books by any means. One of them is like Invincible Iron Man #1, not the Riri Williams, just another cover, signed by Neil Adams. The other one was a TMNT. I think that was like the issue. I don't know. It was like a 500, or it was a milestone issue.
Okay.
Signed and sketched by Neil, and then signed and sketched by Kevin Eastman. Sorry, it was signed and sketched by Kevin Eastman first, and then signed and sketched by Neil Adams, but it was towards the end of his life.
Okay.
So he accidentally signed and sketched on top of Kevin Eastman's signed and sketch.
Oh no.
So then they brought it back to Kevin Eastman and asked for another signed and sketch, but he said he was only going to sign it this time. So then it's like double signed by it's weird. It's a green and it's a yellow label. And it's a green label because the first Kevin Eastman sign and sketch, I guess, had gotten voided, or I don't really know what happened.
Okay,
but it was absolutely signed and sketched by Kevin Eastman because the sellers are reputable, like they're direct connections to the industry. But somehow, like I think they said it got voided when it got sketched over. I don't know, but anyway, so they ended up just having to call it like markings. I wonder if I sent it into the new JSA, if it would get authenticated. But anyway, so double signed by Kevin Eastman with the sketch, and then signed and sketched by Neil Adams, which is a cool book.
Yeah, right. It's a great story anyway.
But I overpaid for both of those. I will say I wasn't like keen on them, and I think this situation, this bad buy, is what made me the hard-headed, like, have the ability to walk away and tell people no, kind of person that I am today. But I was leaving this shop, and I mean, they try not to let you out the door without selling you more stuff. And I ended up getting, more books thrown at me, and I was ready to go. But then he showed me the Kevin Eastman, Neil Adams one, and I was like, oh, okay, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then he threw in the Invincible one. So I paid $1,000 for both of them. I want to say probably I lost 50% of my money on that one. They're Neil Adams sketches, or one of them is a Neil Adams sketch, but they're signed by Neil Adams, which is great in and of itself. So it's cool to have those.
Right.
But I would definitely say that if I could go back, I would not buy those books. I would put the $1,000 towards something else.
So is the regret that you spent too much for it, or that you're not really happy with the book?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I think if I just had the TMNT one, I wouldn't be like as kind of upset. But I think I spent too much.
Yeah.
And the Iron Man book, I just don't care for, and it's going to be hard to like pass that on to somebody else because it's a Neil Adams Iron Man cover. It's a variant of that first issue, but
yeah, you have to explain all that to them, and that's hard.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's not something where they go, "Oh, wow, I recognize that. I want that." Yeah. Okay. Well, mine is a recent also, and I recently bought a Fantastic Four 48 on a claim sale, and I love. It's a book, again. I had it in near mint for most of my life, and then sold it in the 90s, and haven't had it since. And I know I can't buy it in the condition I had it. So that's already one strike. Like, it's tough to replace a book that you had that was really minty, unless you're going to replace it in a mint condition, because no matter what, you will always compare it to the one you had.
Yeah.
And I can't afford a mint copy of Fantastic Four 48. It's priced. I could, but I'd have some explaining to do.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. So anyway, I found I was on a claim sale one night, and the seller, had some really good books, like really mega bronze and silver age keys, and he had two books that were on my list, and it was in the middle of a season where I was really accumulating a lot of books, and I just decided, kind of blew the top off a bit, and he was selling. He had on the sale a House of Secrets 92 and this Fantastic Four 48. Both books that I wanted in my collection and wanted for a long time. Never owned a House of Secrets 92 for a Swamp Thing, and I did once have the 48. So I put an offer in for both, and we kind of went back and forth a bit, and I ended up getting both, and they came in the mail. The House of Secrets was low grade, ended up getting slabbed out at a 3.0, but has Bernie Wright's signature on it. So when you got a legend signing it, you almost don't really, whatever. It's whatever grade it is. It's not that important to me. It's just I love the book. I'm so happy about the book.
Yeah.
So half of that purchase I'm really stoked about. The other half of the FF48, and this is not the seller's fault. This is totally my fault. It was slabbed. It was already slabbed in a 4.0, and I'm watching this thing on my little tiny phone.
Yeah.
And I saw it. I saw it was a 4.0, and I jumped into the claim sale a little bit late, so he probably put it up to the camera, and I didn't see it. And the mistake I made is I made the offer before I asked to see both books up close, and so it's not the seller's fault. Completely my fault. The books came, and it's definitely a legit 4.0. It's in a slab 4.0. But it's got writing on the cover, and writing looked like a kid tried to sell it at a garage sale, so he put a price on it, and then which is not a big deal. I could almost overlook it, but then with another either pen or pencil or something, scratched that off and then put a new price somewhere else on it, and it's a bit much.
Yeah,
and for some reason CGC is very easy on writing on the cover. They see it as much less of a strike on a book than I do
for vintage stuff, not really with modern.
For vintage stuff, and in my mind, writing on a book is just tanked, and So here I have this book. It's one of my personal grails. One that I'm a huge FF collector and a Silver Surfer collector. So this is a no brainer for me. And I spent a decent amount of money. Now I have this book in my collection, and every time I look at it, that's all I see are the markings on it.
Yeah.
And it's such a bummer because I really want to enjoy that book. It's a book I should be displaying, and I would be happier. Look, it's a beautiful 4.0 everywhere else. Like, it's got downgraded because of the writing, but I would trade it for a more beat up copy that's also 4.0 without the writing.
Yeah.
Only I don't think I'm going to be able to make that trade because a lot of collectors feel the same way I do. They always ask, okay, it's a 3.0, it's a 4.0. Is there any writing on the cover?
Oh.
And that's on me. It's not on the seller. It's totally on me. So that's a regret I have. What am I going to do about it? I don't know.
You gonna sell it?
See, that's the problem. It's like, I think it's going to be a hard sell because I got to sell to someone who doesn't care about the writing on the cover. I mean, I'm going to take a bath on it if I sell it. I think, I got a fair price, but I got a fair price for 4.0, but I don't think it was a fair price for 4.0 with writing on the cover. I mean, I suppose it was, but there are going to be a lot of buyers who object to it, like I would have.
Right. Yeah.
And anyway, so there's that's a regret for me, but I still love having the book. Every time I look at it, I'm like, why didn't I could have held out and found another 4.0 for the same price without the writing.
Yeah.
So you live and learn.
So a couple of my other bad buys are actually right behind you. So compared to last week, there's actually stuff on the wall. A lot of rage and anger went into hanging things. I hate hanging things on the wall because I need it all to be even, but I don't have the patience to measure everything and like double check and make sure. But anyways, we got it all up and it looks nice.
Yeah.
So that first Kingpin and first Kang, these two are not on the sellers. I would say my last example was partially me and partially the seller. I need a little bit of a stronger back on those Neil Adams sign purchases, but this ASM 50 on the wall, I bought for $900, and it was supposed to be a 6.0, and it's not. But part of what happened, totally my fault, is I'm cleaning the book to press, and this is the first and only time I've ever done this. I was erasing the spine, getting dirt off the back cover. So I'm like going down the spine. And when you get to the corners, you have to be very, very careful. And the eraser just caught on that corner and probably about a half an inch rip. And I dropped my eraser and I left the house. And I was like, I don't want to look at this.
You texted me.
I need to leave.
You probably don't even remember this, but I get a text. I knew we were getting ready to work on the book.
Yeah.
And you had gotten a decent deal on the book. And
yeah.
And
for the time, it's not, even a 6.0 is not worth that anymore. But yeah, for the time, it was a good deal.
And it's a personal grail for you for numerous reasons, as it is for many people.
I mean, it's a fantastic cover.
Unbelievable cover. And I get this. My phone beeps, and I look at it, and I don't remember the exact. I have to look it up, but you just basically said I tore my ASM 50. Which basically was the thing.
Yeah.
And then my heart sank for you.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and I was like trying to think of what can I say to this guy. There's nothing I can really say.
Yeah.
It would have been bad enough if you had opened it and looked at it and found a tear. That's no fun. But I know you are like me. You're harder on yourself than you're going to be on anybody else. Right? So, and then before I even had a chance to respond, my phone buzzed in my hand, and you just said, "I'm taking a walk. I just have to leave," or something like that. And I think I wrote back. I just like no with like 6 or 7 O's on it.
Like that,
what can you say? I felt like it was like Job. I should just come over and just sit there with you and wear sackcloth and mourn with you and say nothing.
It was tough because that book I wanted. The thing is I wanted to buy it already graded because at the time I was new to pressing, and I will say like I learned my lesson. Like now even then I was easy on the corners, but now I'm even more like lighter.
Yeah.
But it was just a good deal raw for the time. You know, the book has come down still a lot since then, so that goes for even cheaper. But yeah, I've learned my lesson. But the thing that was painful about that is as soon as it ripped, my first thought was that was a $200 mistake at least, and then that's when I dropped my eraser and I left.
That's just so brutal.
So that was brutal.
So what will you do? You've got the 4.0. It's a beautiful 4.0.
That's the thing is it's fantastic for a 4.0. Also, is that a Kirby cover?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not. Watch me take it off the wall and drop it.
No, it's a
Okay. Romita?
It's a Romita cover. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
I had a chance to buy this book for $50 when I worked at Golden Apple Comics on Melrose in 1991, and I didn't buy it.
Wow. Why would you not buy?
For the same, you know why? Because back in 1990, it wasn't. It wasn't even registered that I would have bought this because it's the first Kingpin. It just would have been because it's the
cover,
the great cover, and the famous Spider-Man No More story. Everybody knew that even back then was made it collectible. But it being the first Kingpin was an afterthought.
Yeah.
Because again, not until maybe the last 25 years did the first appearance of villains really kind of ascend to where they are now. So, and what condition was it in for $50? Probably like a VF, something like that. So yeah.
The reason why I knew that was Romita because iconic Spider-Man covers in that whole run right there. But the reason why I had a hesitation and thought that it was Kirby was because last week, we talked about that Doom cover of that Kirby did in FF, and then FF48 with the big Watcher.
Yeah.
And so I saw the Spider-Man because it's a bigger version, and I was like, is that just like a Kirby thing? And then it made me forget that Romita even drew Spider-Man for a while.
I know you don't like the cover of Fantastic Four 48. You say the Watcher's wearing a big diaper, like he's a big baby in a diaper. I always just thought of him wearing a toga. Like I never thought of a diaper. Thanks for putting that in my head now.
I will never own that book.
Oh man.
FF49, beautiful though.
Yeah.
And is that also a Kirby 49?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, Galactus is a planet eater, so
yeah,
he should be big. But I like Kirby, like those big monstrous designs they were so cool.
Just one of these times we'll dedicate a whole episode to talk about our favorite runs of our favorite titles.
Yeah.
And like a 12 issue run. Fantastic Four from about 39 to say 55, or even less to 50 to 50 to 53 even. That's just an unbelievable run, an unbelievable one home run after another, an insane amount of first appearances, but a story for another day.
So another one is that Kang. I don't regret buying it. I regret not waiting a little bit more. I feel like I could have held out a bit longer. But even when I bought this book, this was this was after the Loki season 1, I think. This was definitely before Ant-Man came out. This book had dropped. I think I got that for like $850, $900, and a 5.0 a year before that was going for $1,500. So my thought process was, surely it's not going lower than this.
With the hype coming up from the movies,
and then all just the unfortunate circumstances that were kind of happening around the character of Kang. I think I can go buy now like a 7.0, 7.5 for what I paid for that. So
that's painful.
I don't regret that book because Kang is such a cool character,
right?
And Jonathan Majors did incredible with his time with the character, and it's a single-digit Avengers, so it's a good book all around. But if I held out a little longer,
this one's an interesting one for me because this is the first appearance of Kang. There it is, right there, Kang, and yet, if you really think about it, in the Marvel universe, the first appearance of the character that is Kang is actually Fantastic Four 19, the first appearance of Rama Tut.
But that was all retcon, though.
I know, you're right. I mean, I know I'm not arguing it. This is the first appearance of Kang. But that's an interesting story behind that one too, because Fantastic Four 19 is kind of weird in the whole scheme of the early Fantastic Four. You know, they're out in space a lot. They're fighting Skrulls and the Infant Terrible and the Watchers coming.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, a lot of cosmic stuff.
Yeah.
With Fantastic Four, because of course that was the age of space travel and everybody was into it. But here comes issue 19, and you have a pharaoh and a pyramid on the cover.
Yeah.
But the reason for that was because Stan Lee, ever the pop culture aficionado, wanted to coordinate the publication of FF19 with the premiere of Cleopatra starring Elizabeth Taylor, which was coming out. I think it was 64. So he wanted to capitalize on
The hype.
of ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
And so that's why he did it. And so because of that, maybe they thought in retrospect, what do we got to do something with this whole Egypt detour thing in the middle of the Fantastic Four run. So here's what we'll do: we'll retcon it and we'll call him.
Yeah.
We'll say it was a Kang personage. Yeah, personage.
You're the communication prof. I don't know.
I guess so. Persona, personage. Yeah, either one works. But anyway, yeah, it's still a great book to have, though.
Yeah.
Well, the last one I'll share is actually I'm gonna bend the rules slightly. It's not a purchase I regret. It's a non-purchase I regret. I was at a convention, 1990, not even 1990. It was 1987, summer of 1987, summer between my freshman and sophomore year in college. And I came home.
What con was this?
It was I don't even remember the name of it, but it was in Oakland.
Okay.
I could probably look it up, but it was. I was at the time this summer. I was working at a kind of like a Kinko's, but it was called Copyland, and it was in my hometown in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. And the guy there was a real sharp entrepreneur, and he was telling me, he was giving me all. He knew about my collection. I knew I was going to a convention, and he was giving me all these tips about negotiating. You know, things that seem to come second nature to you. I'm not really a great negotiator. We've talked about this. If I was going to buy a heavy hitter book, I'd probably send you to buy it for me because you give me a better deal. But anyway, I was in this mindset that I was going to go and be this negotiator. So I went to this convention. I made some really good deals and trades. But here's the book I didn't buy. Silver Surfer 4 in mint condition. I mean, mint condition. The reason I didn't buy it is because the guy wanted $35 for it, and I didn't want to pay more than 30.
Wow.
Whatever emoji you have for like the womp womp, that's what needs to be played right now.
Oh, wait, here, I think I have some trombone, air horn, cricket. Here, we'll do this one.
Yeah. That's me. It was a bad moment. What was echoing in my ear was this shop owner, my boss, telling me that you have to be willing to walk away, you know. So I did. I over the $5 for this book, I walked away, and I didn't regret it. I walked away. Didn't regret it then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, do I regret it now? Like I own that book now. I paid a lot more than $35 for it, and it's in a lot lesser condition than near mint. But you learn. That was a tough one to not.
Yeah. But I mean, you might have sold it because there was a time where you were purging your collection.
I would have. Yeah, that would have sold because it would have been an easy one to sell.
Yeah.
Any seller who's listening to this video, watching this video, knows how easy Silver Surfer 4 is to move. If you have that like I saw recently a claim sale where somebody bought 3 from the same seller, bought 3 Silver Surfer 4s, just packaged them, bought them. But I know why he did it, because he knows that he can sell those 4.
Yeah.
Those 3 individually, one after another, because it's just, that book's got everything.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer 4 in the conversation for greatest cover ever. And it used to be considered low distribution, but I don't know if it's more scarce, but I don't know if that's really true anymore. But, and it's also, don't forget, second Mephisto. You know, it is the second Mephisto.
Yeah.
People don't even think about that because the cover is so good.
Yeah.
Beautiful book. Oh, So anyway, I have the book now.
Yeah, nice.
Didn't pay $35 for it. Double it, add a zero, and then
Yeah.
then you're in the range.
All right. So how about best
purchases?
best purchases?
Oh, there's no question that my best purchase, and it's going to be in show and tell here pretty soon, was my Fantastic Four annual #1. I bought that book maybe for, I think I paid $40 for it back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
That was the title I decided I was going to collect, and it was an issue #1, and it was the only issue #1 in the title that I could ever dream of getting, except maybe it was the only one, because you couldn't even get giant size one because there was no giant size FF1. You know what giant size FF1 was called? Giant size Superstars 1, and you gave it to me for Christmas last year.
Oh yeah,
the one with the Thing and the Hulk battling, and beautiful 9.4.
9.4.
Yeah, I love that book. Thank you again for that. That's never going to leave my collection either. And then after that, they went with FF Giant Size 2, FF Giant Size 3. So the only way I was going to get an FF1 would be to get FF Annual 1, and I found one. And again, remember, this was in the 80s. There was no internet. There was no eBay. There was no, you really had to scour.
Yeah.
You could go to a convention and not find it.
Yeah.
I could go to a convention now and not find it. It's just not that available.
Yeah.
But I can find it on eBay if I really want. But anyway, I bought this thing, beautiful condition, square bound, crisp colors, the whole thing, and finally got it graded, and it came back an 8.0, which is
unpressed,
tough grade for this book. So I'm really pleased with that. I don't know what it would cost if I wanted to buy it in 8.0, but it'd be more
north of 2K.
Yeah,
Easy.
too much, and I'm never going to sell that book.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's just not
no.
So that was one of my best buys. And the other best buy probably is that I didn't sell is my Fantastic Four 49, which is I paid like $13 for it, and I finally got it graded, and it came back a 7.0. But oddly, it came back 7.0 restored, and it says there's some color touch. There's no color touch.
No.
Nobody was color touching a $13 book in 1983. I know it's not a color touch. In fact, we've looked at your slabbed universal, and it has the same under the blue light, the same. What would you call that? A glow, a fluorescent?
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's a printing issue, but because my cover's a little off cut. It moved close enough to the spine where CGC I identified it as a color touch. It's not a color touch.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what to do about that.
Yeah, if you take a black light, if you're watching or listening, if you have an FF49 and take a black light to your book, and right on the spine, up here, like in the Marvel comics where it has the sense, and they have the faces of the FF. I don't have any FF books hanging up right now. But Sue Storm is closer to the spine. And so depending on the way that your spine roll is, there was on the back, it's from her hair, there's some yellow. And on my book, that part it's rolled normally, it's sitting pretty normal, and that yellow is on the back. But yours is slightly spine rolled, not too bad, but where that yellow creeps onto where it looks like it's on the front cover now. Yeah. And so that, if you take it under a black light, it highlights. So if you have a copy, take a black light to the front cover, take a black light to the back cover, and you'll see that it'll highlight like fluorescent. But I think because mine was on the back cover, it never got...
Yeah, because you wouldn't color touch. The color touch only makes sense on the spine.
Yeah.
So seriously, if you have a black light, just go and you have FF49, do me a favor and do that. And if you find on the front or the back that it has that glow, take a picture and send it to how would we do it? Send it to
Mr. Longbox on you on Instagram.
Send it to my Instagram, Mr. Longbox, because I need to make a case to CGC that it's not a restored. I know it was in my collection for 45 years. It's not a resto.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've got that same line on yours tells me it's some kind of a printing thing that somehow is being misread. we can't be the only two people in the world that happen to have this on their FF49s.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious if how many of those out there have that. So I feel like I want to resend it.
I feel like your best bet is going to a con where they're there and where they're grading on site and bringing it to them. Because most of the time the president, Matt Nielsen,
Yeah.
can't think of his last name. He's normally there, and you can just like present it to him and just be like, hey.
But you have to come with me with your book though, because then he'll look at mine and go, well, yeah, I don't believe you. But if you say, well, look at this one, it's the same thing, but it's on the back, that might cause like. There might be a lot of people out there with an FF49.
Well, I'm not trying to get mine reslabbed. And they're like, hey, this guy's is also purple.
Just make sure that when he looks at it, you're still holding the book, so he can't take it out of your hands. But, maybe there's other people like me who have a purple label FF49 that should not be purple labeled.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be purple labeled. I have a feeling there are.
Yeah.
But anyway, any sleuths out there that want to do some of that that detective work, I'm game. I'd love to know.
But still a great buy for $13.
$13, right? I mean, and that would, if it's in a Universal, that would be one of my more valuable books if it were Blue Label, even in purple. Purple Label doesn't bother me for Golden Age books, for some books.
Yeah.
But it bugs me for this one because it doesn't deserve a purple label.
Yeah. So one of my best buys is a book that I don't have anymore.
Okay.
And it also became one of my best sells. And it also became a sentimental book that I no longer own.
So this is maybe a good buy, bad sell, good sell, all of it.
It's a good buy. It's a good sell.
And a sad sell.
And a sad sell. So I got this first appearance of Daredevil 1 at New York Comic Con back in October. And to get this book, I had to sell other books. So one of the books that I sold was Hulk 340, iconic Hulk Wolverine cover. And I sold that book for $1,000, a little over $1,000, like $1,100, I think. I bought it raw for $325.
That's a win.
Got it graded, came back a 9.8. Huge. The thing that makes it one of my favorite sentimental buys is I bought it from our LCS maybe about, I don't remember, over a year ago, I want to say.
Yeah.
And there's a former employee that worked there. His name was Jesse. And he cut me a deal on it. And I think he kind of really wasn't supposed to. I don't, but him and I were homies. So he was like, yeah. Like you're regular, like I'll cut you some slack on that. So he sold it to me for $325. And unfortunately, late last year, like November, he tragically passed away in an accident. So I will thank him for giving me a deal on that, because without him selling me that book, I would not be able to have that Daredevil 1. So,
and that book's always going to be in your collection.
Yeah, this book will always be my collection. So
a piece of Jesse in your collection.
Yeah,
indirectly.
I have Jesse to thank for having Daredevil 1. So he also sold me wherever it is, the Batman 423 that I have hanging up over there. So I got a couple, and I still have that book. So I have a couple good books from him.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Yeah. So yeah, piece of Jesse will live on as he helped me climb. He was part of the climb to my Daredevil 1.
Yeah.
I had to buy some books. I had to sell some books. He was part of the process.
Yeah. It's an interesting phenomenon, the comic book world. So much of whether or not someone stays in the hobby or leaves the hobby has to do with the people we interact with, and a lot of times those interactions happen at the local comic shop.
Yeah.
And I like to think that the comic book world is very friendly. I have found that to be true. But let's be real, like it can be kind of cliquey, and it can be kind of inward facing, and I know a lot and you don't, so therefore. And when I got back into collecting, I was out of it for 20 years, and I got back in. I didn't know really very much at all about the new stuff, and I've learned. You've helped me learn a lot more about the new things coming out. But my first interactions with the comic world, as an old head that felt like a newbie, was with this young guy Jesse at our LCS.
Yeah,
and one of the things about him, and I say this about anybody who works at an LCS, he never made you feel like bad that you didn't know something. Like,
Yeah.
You know, I think if you're going to be a good LCS or really just a good part of the comic book community, you're always going to be an educator of some kind. Like you never want to make somebody feel bad because they don't know something, you know, because there's a lot to know and people are coming at it from a lot of different places of interest. And, you know, it's a wonderful place, but it can be intimidating because you're walking in and like there's a group of people and they're talking about a bunch of stuff that you know nothing about. And you feel like, well, maybe I should just leave, you know. That was never true with Jesse. He was just like, hey, you know, what's going on?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I almost felt like I was confessing. I'm like, well, you know, I collected a lot in the 80s and the 90s, but I kind of been out of it for a long time. And, you know, he's like, oh man, I bet you must have been around when, and then just that was in a way we went, you know? And and we were talking earlier about the LCS and just its future, you know, and I guess about any LCS. I hear a lot about comic shops seeing some hard times, facing hard times, and you know, oh well, you know, we don't need LCSs. We can get our stuff elsewhere. We need LCSs.
Yeah.
You know, you and I are making plans to go to our LCS on Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, because he's having a sidewalk sale because he's clearing out his warehouse. So we're going to go and we're going to get some dollar books.
Yeah.
And we're going to fill some runs and we're going to buy stuff we can't afford. We're going to buy stuff we have nowhere to store it. You know what? It's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
And we're going to be shoulder to shoulder with people that think just like us. And it's not going to be like, you know, Christmas at Walmart where people are shouldering each other out of the way. There's like
Friday.
a respect, you know, unless of course there's a really cool Catwoman cover. I might shoulder somebody out of the way, but otherwise, you know, no, it's, so I love an LCS and you know, I like supporting the LCS.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. So yeah, that was a buy. I have some other good ones. I bought an Invincible issue #1 for like $150 because the guy thought it was low grade. And to be fair, it did have some like weird, like staining almost on the cover, and he thought it was gonna be like a 7.5, and I was like, yeah, 7580. I don't know what the stuff is on the cover.
Yeah.
And it came back a 9.2. I don't know how or why, but I mean, it is what it is. And so that's another book I sold and turned into Daredevil 1. So all my good buys so far. I also have in the jungles of thrift stores, and I always end up finding stuff.
Oh, sure.
Like, I mean, I don't know how many X-Men Annual 14s I've found in thrift shop. I literally have like 4 copies that I've bought for $1.
It's incredible.
There's some serious books I found in antique and thrift shops. So
yeah. Those are fun.
I would say the Invincible and Hulk 340 are probably my two, like, where I've made the most profit and have contributed to a major part of my collection.
Right, you bought Invincible 1, and then you got it slabbed and came back a 9.2, and then you sold it, and that was part of your Daredevil purchase as well. Man, I want to get into an FF1. I know that's going to require, well, I don't think that's possible. But let's get back to the last episode. I'm going to get into an FF2 or an FF12 or an FF4. And even to do that responsibly, probably going to require me selling some things. And I only have almost exclusively regrets every time I've ever sold anything.
Yeah.
Like, I hate selling comic books, you know. I love adding them to my collection, and I hate selling them. So almost every book I ever sold, I wish I didn't sell it. You know? But you know, I had my reasons, and they were good reasons.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
You know, it's just easy in retrospect to say it, but I'm sure if I could talk to the guy who sold it 20 years ago, he would still say, "Yeah, you got to sell it. You got to sell it. It doesn't matter if it's going to be worth 10 times more in 10 years. You need the money right now."
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it's the ups and downs of being a collector. You know, you have your wins, you have your losses, but it's all fun. You know, like this right here is an example. I bought it, I sold it, I bought it again.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, that wraps up our main portion of our podcast. So if you are on YouTube or any of the audio places, thanks so much for watching and listening. If you'd like to hear the next segment of the podcast, you could head to our Patreon, where we'll have bonus content and a couple extra things. Just pretty much a longer podcast. And we'll come up with more to do from there, but that's kind of our starting point. And so if you're interested, what we're going to be talking about is our overvalued books and undervalued books in the market. Not that's in our collection, but we're calling them head scratchers, books that are expensive and we don't know why. And then what's the other one we call it? Sleepers. Books that are so low and we don't know why they've come down so far, and they probably shouldn't be that low. Yeah. So we're probably looking to buy some of those. So that's right. That's what we'll be talking about in our Patreon section. So thanks so much for listening. Yeah. And hope
this is great. Yeah. It's always fun.
Hope to catch you over there on Patreon.
See you later.
What's up, guys? Spro here. Thanks so much for watching or listening to the second episode of our podcast. We really appreciate it. Just wanted to give you guys a quick update on the Patreon. So earlier today, I went to go create our account, and less than 10 minutes into me setting up our page, I got kicked out of the account, and I got an email saying that we were suspended for suspicious activity and that they were deactivating the account. I'm not really sure what happened. I reached out to their support team, but their support team is closed on the weekend, and they said that they'd get back to me in the next 24 to 48 hours. So I'll probably hear back from them either Monday or Tuesday. But until that gets resolved, the bonus content will have to wait. I'm really sorry. Kind of sucks that happened. But it is what it is. So hopefully that bonus content will be out soon. So if you guys are looking forward to that, stay tuned. We'll make an announcement definitely on our Instagrams. So make sure you're following us there. And we'll definitely drop like a community post and let you guys know when that's live. And of course, the link will still be in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. So yeah, again, sorry that happened, guys, but it will hopefully be out soon. Thanks again for watching. We really appreciate it.